All right, what's going on, everybody? Chris Battaglia here with Ryan Mule.
Hello.
And Jeremy Panda for episode 10, Marketing Mandoms. Jeremy, thanks for coming out, man.
For sure. Thanks for having me.
Bro, so, Panda, obviously, Peace and Cotton. Give us a quick, few-minute story of how did you end up in the custom printing business? Let's go to there first, then we'll get into all the juicy business stuff for everyone watching.
We've spoken a few times, so you know I can go off on a rant. So we'll see what I can do. So custom printing. So I started out in retail, had some kiosks in the East Coast, and then I had this kind of wild life for a bit, traveling around Canada, managing this big kind of national retail chain of kiosks. And didn't like the seasonal delusion that a lot of these kiosk owners have, which is you start making all this money seasonally on a product that sells seasonally, like a Christmas product or a summer product, or a holiday product, and then you don't make any money the rest of the year. So it's kind of an illusion, like where you're making like tons of dough, and then all of a sudden 4 months of the year, 6 months of the year, it's dead. So I saw a model of one of my old school childhood friends. He had a store in Guelph that was a name brand retail store, like skate brand store, but he also did service work. He did embroidery and printing, and he just subbed it out. He had no skill set or anything like doing that, but I liked the model because I realized that there was two ways to pay the rent. And so that was kind of literally just when I was doing all of that retail, and I kind of didn't like it, and I kind of hated malls, and I kind of hated sunglasses, which was what I was doing. I wanted to do something a little bit more. And so I just saw that hybrid model and thought that was the next step in the evolutionary process. And so I met a screen printer, and we opened up a shop on College Street in Little Italy, and we went to work doing custom work.
Yeah, so I guess do you remember how you ended up getting your first couple clients in that business?
Yeah, actually, for me, it was out of a lot of stuff is out of necessity, when you decide that you're not going to work for anybody and you're just going to put it all out there. So I was with this screen printer for a bit, and I realized I was spread thinly across the East Coast doing retail. So, we didn't get along so well. He was kind of a tight ass. And so I basically wanted to shut down all my other work and focus on College Street and being an owner-operator. But I gave him the option of taking it over himself. But we had this sign up in this store on College Street that said screen printing. And so anyway, he decided to go back to the city. I think the up and down and the chaos of it all, he wanted to, get out of that. And so I took it over, and basically I had a sign up that said screen printing. And so I was not a screen printer, but I had to basically learn how to sell screen printing. And I already had a sign engraved in the wall, and I had a brick and mortar's place before, and that was it. And it was ironic because had I been the one selling the screen printing while he was a screen printer, we probably would have done really, really well. And I'm sure he kicks himself a bit, or maybe not. Maybe he doesn't at all, actually, probably. But we went on to build a company out of that. So it was really those spreadsheets. It was a mix of spreadsheets and my math kind of number skills, and also my love for people, which is just what it is: relationships, meeting people, and that personal engagement one-on-one. And that, I hope that answers it, but that's kind of how it all started.
That's how you built out the early stages of the company.
Yeah.
So it was mainly focusing screen printing at the beginning? That was your main operation?
100%. So it was screen printing, but because of my divergent mind, because I get bored so easily, and I wanted to just help people. Sure, you can say you want to help people. I mean, I do love helping people. There's a big ego kick too, along with the selfless rewards. There's selfish rewards too. But you know what? It was really just being bored. Like screen printing, I got hired out of that little store to run a big commercial shop, built it into $1 million shop in a couple of years, which was the goal. And to be honest with you, I needed to do more. People were asking for custom work, and so I wanted to do more. And so I started expanding the repertoire, and used to really talk to a lot of corporate sales guys. Before we actually could do what we do now, I was saying yes to it all and figuring it out as I went. And obviously that was some pretty painful years for a lot of people as well as me, but we did it, and I just kind of blink, and now we actually can do it with a straight face. We've been doing it for a while.
So when you talk about landing like these big corporate clients, I know we know you've done work for like Holt, you've done stuff for TikTok. Like, how do some of these bigger brand deals come together for anyone watching? Like, how have these things happened?
I think it's 100% for me. It's the personal engagement, the personal relationships. It's a lot of intuition in the sense, not in a mystical way, but it's just trusting my instincts and just having done it for so long. And honestly, like it's just the slow way of doing things, is just literally doing it, person to person, and just building this company that way, in that kind of organic way. So all of a sudden, 5-7 years ago, I stopped cold call. Like, there's no cold calling. There's no real cold emailing anybody. It's really just referrals and just doing good work. When you have a good product and you're an honest person and you do good work and you actually do it for a long amount of time, because a lot of people don't want to do that long form thing. All of a sudden the rewards are plentiful. So I think there's obviously this quick kind of culture of just like needing reward and wanting and not wanting to really dig in, but digging in and long form and just really, that's really what happens. And obviously there's like kind of like an instinct that says, hey, what does Lush Cosmetics do? How can we help them? And that led to our biggest job. Actually, it was an 80,000 piece job for me, just sort of thinking, what did they do? What could we do with them? Because they had come up in a conversation. And, I believe a lot on my instincts, but also my creativity and I need, when there's a little bit of a lead or a little bit of a thing that I'm given, I can kind of make a lot out of it. And but I think that's a lot to do with people and engagement and just being like a dude, and I would say authentic, and I don't want to sound inauthentic by saying it, but this is me. This is the way I am. And my logo is a panda for a reason. It's my last name, and it's just what you get when you're dealing with me. And honestly, that has gone through with all these brands. I would say we have like 40 massive brands that I know the marketing manager, the head of the company in Canada, are now in LA we're starting to work with, and we're just growing that way. So it's the relationship end though.
Yeah, so it's word of mouth, it's relationships, it's because you guys deliver on jobs and then get kind of referred.
For now, yeah. But there's downfalls to that. There's downfalls of that now in my life. At 42, I got 3 kids. We got a house. I got a beautiful wife, and she's got a great job, and she's helping people. She's a professor in child and youth studies at Brock, and now it's kind of like, well, what do you want to do? And do you want to be around in your kid's life? And I do, and I balance it out. I'm coaching my kid's soccer team, and I'm there for my 15-year-old, and I'm balancing it out. And so now it's about, honestly, the next thing is where I think marketing really comes in, is firing myself. I had an investor approach us last year and express interest in buying the company. So that was exciting because I actually saw the valuation. The valuation was a lot higher than I thought it was, but the problem is it's pretty much just contingent on me and my relationships.
You're the bottleneck. Yeah.
So it's basically, then I came out thinking, well, what we have to do is create this reason to this reason, just when people come to the company and it's not me, what will kind of blow their mind in the way that I might on an honest level. Because on an honest level, I'm helping people. I'm really trying to get to the right answer and stuff and solution for them. But now it's kind of building that out, which I think that's where marketing really starts to come into effect, where I've done a lot of the hard work and I love it, but now it's about really trying to be smart about the next steps.
So that's kind of your end game, you'd say, is to build something where you could fire yourself in a sense, and then you'd be able to step out if you wanted to? Or do you think you could ever fully step out of this?
I don't know. I think that for years I've had people, like there's a dude that I became friends with years ago. He owned a company called Mod Robes. So Mod Robes, when I was a teenager, was like the biggest brand in Canada. They did 2 million pairs of like hospital pants back in the 90s, which is massive in Canada. This guy's like a friend of mine. We were really good buddies for a while when he was in Toronto. But he always said to me, once you have your own brand, you'll really be happier. And I just don't really agree with that. I like Peace and Cotton and the Panda Head and all this stuff has kind of come just because I have to have a brand associated with it. That was not the intention at all. So to answer your question is, I do think that I'm open to change and adapting, and I am trying to steer the ship into some really exciting projects, which we can talk about whenever, but we don't have to. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, right now, I'm digging in because we're steering this big ship, and there's a lot of changes that are happening, and blah blah blah. But I don't know. I didn't really answer your question, but I don't know. I think. What's the answer? The short answer is, yeah, I think I could leave. Ultimately, you want to be able to objectively give the people the best possible solution for their intention, and try to help them in the best way. So if I can figure that out and give that to people, which we're working on, then absolutely I can step away, because that's the objective truth, of what people should be getting when they're asking to get stuff made.
Right.
Yeah, I know you have obviously you have a team. So like I'm going through a phase in my entrepreneurial journey right now where I'm kind of transitioning from someone who wore a lot of hats to now actually moving into a position of leadership and management. How has that transition been for you when you went from being maybe always working in the business and that being your sense of like productivity to now moving into you've been there a bit longer, but being a leader and being almost like a manager of people in some ways?
Yeah, it's pretty wild. Like for a bit, we'd have this sort of company of people running around, and there was money coming in, but I didn't know how to organize it. And I think everyone was just looking for me to kind of take charge. And so I actually, I have a buddy in LA who built a $40 million. Well, he built a $40 million ad agency in LA, and I got on the phone with him one night, and we hadn't really had a whole lot of talk in business. And I don't call a lot of favors in, but I called one in, and he basically told me that a lot of the times with companies, there's kind of a crazier creative macro person, and then there's an operational end. So whether that's a whole department of people or one person, whether that's a whole bunch of creative people and innovators, but usually it's split between people and roles. And that was, by the way, like probably the biggest change in my life as a business owner, where there was a girl named Lauren who I basically went into work the next day and said, "You're the operations head." And the company started to organize, and I was able to delegate accordingly. And that was 9 years ago, and that position has stayed for the most part since then.
Yeah, I was about to say that's like the Steve Jobs, Steve Wozniak partnership. I'd say it's very rare that you find entrepreneurs that can do both in one person. I'd say like Elon probably being the only exception right now that I can think of off the top of my head. But most of the times you're right. Yeah, you have like kind of the creative visionary who's terrible at details, and then you have the ops person who's very good at the details running the business, but they're not necessarily the most innovative or creative kind of person usually.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I think ultimately with me, I can zoom in and zoom out. I tend to just be up though in the sky a little bit, macroing it all. I don't want to live down in the micro all the time because it gets boring and tedious, and that's when you can form anxieties about the reality of existence. So it's kind of like okay to delegate that. But I got to tell you, in trying to take hold of this company post-COVID and really take it back to where it was and where it was going, I've had to take real control of the company, and I'm in that minutia, and I'm in that role now, and I'm doing everything. And that was a decision that I made, and I'm excited about it, though I'm already planning on how I'm going to deal with that within the next 2 months. But I'm living it right now, day to day, and it's exciting. It's super hard and painful and different because I've got to live in that like finer detail while I'm trying to really think about all these amazing big things that are going on. But I thought it was necessary to grow the company to the next step.
It's okay. It's like the Howard Schultz when he came back to save Starbucks. It's the same deal.
Yeah.
So Panda, do you have a lot of people come to you that are attempting to start clothing lines or something like that? They want to you pretty much use your services to be like, yo, I need like shirts like this, like this, like this. My question is, for those people, because I feel like a lot of young guys or gals want to start a clothing line. Can you tell us some key differentiators between the ones that you've seen have some sort of success and the ones that completely flame out? Obviously, without mentioning, you don't have to mention anybody's name or anything.
No, it's an amazing question, and I'm obsessed with these things. I started listening to the Freakonomics podcast, and I realized that I've just been this closet economist, Slack hack economist all my life because I'm a numbers guy. But it's just, I pay attention to these things a lot, and when you're dealing with like 500 accounts a year for 15 years or whatever, you're dealing with a lot of people, and you start to see some real similarities in personality types, and you can actually see people coming that you want to avoid too. But I will tell you that I use this example. There's three guys, three companies, and I'll go through them real quick that have had the most success at just three main people, individuals. I deal with a lot of corporates. That's a whole different story, but individuals, we've dealt with literally over 1,000 lines easily. Like I've done the numbers before. It's like easily, because we're doing tons of them all the time. So one gentleman, maybe the most interesting out of all of the stories, I'll start with him. Maybe we'll go somewhere else, but like, he worked in porn for years. And I should have started with the what would have made that even more the kicker is that, he had a baby retail company. Sorry. I screwed the process of the story. So
wow.
Sorry.
What's his name? Johnny?
Johnny. He was in Florida, and he had this retail business doing baby wear, and basically he said, "You want to go for lunch?" Because we had been making a bunch of licensed stuff for a while. So I go out for lunch with him, thinking this guy's like, a dad and doing all this baby shit and stuff, and then we meet and he's like, yeah, I used to be in porn, like pay per click, and so I'm like, what? And it was, I mean, we didn't become friends, but I was like, holy, like, this guy's interesting. Like, and so all of a sudden you realize that it's a lot of analytics. And that was like, and at the time when I was like 28, he was like the most successful person by far that our company was working with. He did every brand, every licensor, and he just was doing so much stuff globally. The other two examples, one was like one of the bigger sneaker influencers. He's still a friend of mine. He built his company up. He's like one of the top 5 like sneaker influencers in North America, and he built it up he's a marketing guy, and he built it up with analytics, and he's a real nice guy and authentic guy and natural sales guy, and has a real amazing eye for high end, and so he's been able to do a lot of things with just his self, but he is an analytics guy. And the third one built this company that did all over printing, all that tacky stuff that you used to see. It's not as big anymore. We actually never really got along as people, but he was like a kid genius in like computer programming. So the three people, like, there's all these romantics, I guess that's the way I was when I was doing more music and stuff. I was more of a dreamer. I would say that a lot of the more successful folks that I deal with have a pretty concrete plan and look at the analytics and understand how things sell on that level that's kind of below the surface of what other people usually see.
Okay, yeah. So, because what you pretty much described is like, guy one was obviously digital ad pro and understood how to run all those products. Like, if you said he came from pay-per-click porn world, then he understood how to bid on things, how to set up landing pages, probably all of the nitty-gritty of running good digital ads. Guy two sounds like more his specialty actually being in content marketing, like had a big following, was a you said a massive sneaker influencer. And then guy three sounds like a little bit like guy one as well, like more just probably hardcore on the math of actually running ads and stuff like that. And yeah, interesting.
But I mean, longevity, I don't know. That's the thing, is I feel like at the end of the day, I'm going to be around. I am going to, like, you asked me if I can ever leave, like, I'll be doing something else though, where I can bring a lot of my people over there. Yeah. And with me. And so I am steering things to different directions, but I do think that as long as I'm sort of doing business, I'll have clients and I'll be doing, and that's going to be the reason why people work with me. Whereas those folks, all three of them don't do the same thing that they did, 5 years ago. So they, and they're not really known as individuals because of that. And so I'm not sure what they're all really doing. They're all trying to find new voices constantly, new hustles. So that's the one thing, is that you might not be able to, rely on that kind of thing.
Yeah, because they're all like kind of building these little kind of online hustle businesses where you're selling like a product that's hot today and then kind of gone tomorrow, not really building like an enduring brand or an organization.
Yeah.
So what are the common pitfalls you see? I guess we talked about like kind of the 3 success cases. when someone comes to you, they have an idea, hey, let's start this clothing line. What's like when you're like, oh God, this is probably gonna end poorly, or
reinventing the t-shirt is the biggest thing. People come and they have an idea about how a t-shirt should be. It's like a wheel. It's been around for a while. There's a lot of different cuts of t-shirt. But people want to change things, and they're set on that, but they haven't test marketed it.
In what sense do they want to change something?
They want to have a specific. I don't want to. If I say specific things, they'll know. And different,
like shit like that?
Things where you're cutting into the shirt
complete
and
style change or fabric change.
Yeah, modifying different elements in ways that. Like where you're modifying the sleeves or the collars or the shirt in a way that you feel would be good, and then you spend all your time in thinking about that. You haven't even shown anyone the prototype. There's an argument about whether we should sample or do a small production run. Those are, and also that idealism with print. I feel like the people that are successful talk to us and ask us our opinion, and we're not really about what's cool. We're more about how do we translate it in the best way, and what are the compromises that come with that, and how do you curate that, and trying to be as open as you can as the pitfalls of each one. Those are big things, and also just the pure. I mean, we do call them vanity projects to people's faces a lot, because it is a lot like going into the studio and recording a record when you haven't sold anything yet. And I'm from that world. I managed bands we were doing it all the time, and I was in bands and played in bands and managed bands that were decent and had followings and all that. But at the end of the day, a lot of it was just to, capture a moment in time that we can all remember and feel good about it and have fun when we're young. So, those vanity lines, those vanity projects, and that it goes back to that old sort of like thing about fashion and why is it important, and people want to be individuals. They want to walk down the street, they want to be noticed, or they want to have a voice. And so there's a lot of good reason to go and just allow people to like just breathe and express themselves. And I'm honest to a fault. I mean, we do say no more to people, or I'll give people a few. I'm not critical, but if people really ask for my opinion, I'll give it to them. So selling isn't really, like, honestly, a lot of people don't come back, not because it's Peace and Cotton or whatever. It's because they don't sell them.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think a lot of times is they don't need to sell them. Like, it's like almost something that they just did that they could do to move on to the next thing. We get a lot of that too. Like, oh, we did 3 capsule collections, we sold them all. Now I just feel like doing something else with my time. So it's interesting. There's a lot of different stories and classifications, I'd say. But I feel like idealism is a big problem. Yeah, and nowadays I feel like the younger generation are finding things on TikTok. They have less attention span. They're not really into the process. They're not going through the approval processes. They're not having any consideration for the process at all. The detail involved, what it takes to pattern things and change things. And so it's becoming a very quick, weird conversation a lot of the times. But I'm learning to navigate that too, because you still want to hit that market. Like, it's still fun to be able to hit an influencer up with some cool merch and they sell it, or they put it up there and they get a bunch of views and sales and stuff. Like, that's cool too. That's fun. So you take it on as a challenge too sometimes, when you're feeling like you're being like an old man. Yeah. So.
You have some cool passion project type stuff that you do as well. Or I might not even necessarily call it passion project, but stuff that you like that Bizwall, for example. That was a really cool project that you guys did.
Yeah, that's where I would say we might be going right now with my life but it's, as you guys know, it's hard to follow that stuff and really find income there.
Yeah.
So it's like basically our idea, I can talk openly about it, I think, is that my buddy Spence, he has a Mutant 101, and him and I have just become friends over the last like 8 months working on all this stuff together. And we came up with this idea that we're going to be launching with 6 artists from around the world, and building a whole retail line around it, and some hype and maybe some pop-ups and around the world, and doing some really wild NFT type stuff and merch and really just community building. And being creative with our networks. We both have, I would say, pretty exciting networks of people. And so that's really fun. I mean, I would love to fly out to Ukraine and go see the the graffiti artist who is doing all the amazing stuff there in Kiev, and talk to him about what we're doing, and then bring people together on that level and have this sort of complex creative kind of experiment. That's like totally what I like to do. It's what I used to do in my 20s in Toronto with music scene. I did all sorts of wild stuff, but now as a sort of grown up, I can do it in a way that is more self-sustainable, and I think I can sell it too. So yeah, that's really exciting. But like, where's the income? Like, it's going to take a while. So you kind of got to do it. And the great thing about what we both do with helping people and doing design and project production is that you get work from talking about it too. So we know that, So the more we talk about it, the more we do it. That's we'll get more work too in what we do for a living. So
Jeremy, so obviously you've been doing this for a while now. So you were just talking about this new projects you're working on. Is that the kind of stuff that gets you excited now about still working in this industry? Like, obviously there's kind of a sense after you've been in the industry for a certain time, like, kind of a been there, done that sense. So is these kind of projects that what gets you out of bed in the morning, gets you pumped up about it?
Yeah, it's fun dealing with some of these bigger corporate brands. It makes you feel like, you're doing kind of good work too. I mean, the whole thing is always to do the corporate stuff and then bring it back to the community and do everything in the community that you can. So the more you can kind of just boost your resume up and get a pat on the back for doing good work from the corporates, you can like feed the community too. I have like ideas all the time to like help out different like dog shelters in St. Catharines in the community, and whatever, like anything that I can help with. And I think I genuinely have kind of a Willie Nelson syndrome of throwing it all and having the riches and then spending it and then being like, oh my God, I gotta sell some more shit and make some money back again. So it's up and down. But that corporate stuff gives you the ego a bit too, of just not the ego, but gives you the boost to the confidence. And so certainly when we get the calls from like LA and the States, and when I go to California in January to the conferences and stuff, and they know who I am, like, that's cool. Like, that makes me feel good. I don't know if it's really like motivating me as like a long kind of form thing, but it's certainly part of it. There's a lot of things that motivate me though. Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever asked you this, but what is your favorite project, or if you even have one, that you've ever done? Maybe it was the most satisfying, or maybe it was, I don't know, for a certain reason, but do you have a project that's like, that you just absolutely loved working on?
That's a really good question. I won't name the brand right now because we're like literally in the middle of signing it, but it's like the biggest motorcycle brand in North America. So you can guess, and I'm sure hopefully within a couple weeks it'll come to fruition. It's all sort of happening right now, but this stuff that we're doing right now is blowing my mind. It's really been fun, and it's new, so that's cool. I'd have to really examine that question. It's a really good question because a lot of these bigger jobs, there's a lot of pain associated with them. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of like giving up multiple times within the job and thinking that's it, and then figuring it out. That's
got to bring some satisfaction with it in itself, right?
Huge amounts of satisfaction. There's actually a little snippet. There's a documentary called Magnus, and it's one of my favorites. And he was like the grand chess master. I think he might still be, or whatever, of the world.
Magnus Carlsen.
Yeah. So there's a doc on Netflix or whatever, and basically the whole premise of this angle that they took on the doc was that he relied a lot on his intuitiveness and his creativity. And so he would almost make a mistake at the beginning on purpose because it would throw off the computer, which was this gentleman that had been the grandmaster for like 12 years or something. And because he knew that if he put him into a hard position, he could kind of get out of it, and he would get out of it in a creative way, in an innovative way. And I've done a lot of wild stuff, and I've played a lot of sports, and I've done a lot of music and sports and strategy games and all that. And so I do kind of like where it leads me. So any complex project, as painful as they are, those are the ones that I really remember. But I will say that whenever you're traveling around and dropping merch off with local businesses and individuals, it's like everyone that's with me, I always wants that job because it does feel really good to be like the guy that's dropping off the merch. So that doesn't get old. Just being able to drop off the drops for all your independent clients and just making people happy. So yeah, that's kind of, again, being a macro guy, it's like, it's all like this big noise, visual noise that I look at. So it's hard to really,
no, I can really appreciate what you said, because the complexity of a job and seeing it come to fruition. You know, when you think that maybe you're not going to be able to get through it, or you're not figuring out how, that you come to that realization and then you complete the job. That's an awesome feeling in itself, but also the feeling of, you know, just doing good for your community or giving back, or, you know, just seeing someone, maybe it's not a big of a project, but something that is just, you know, making someone so happy, and, you know, doing it for a good reason as well. So
yeah,
they're both two kind of different reasons in themselves, but I can see why they'd both be pretty fulfilling.
Yeah, I think I was watching some stuff the other night, and they were talking about Muhammad Ali and about how he took, as a champion, he was the one who had to take the most amount of hits. And I'm not saying we're champions or I'm a champion or anything like that, but it feels good when you're going through a lot of struggle, and you just like, you realize that the more you persevere, you see the results. It's just like any kind of sport, anything that you put your mind to. And so that is an amazing thing. So yeah, those are always kind of obsessive things. And one of my clients once called me an adrenaline junkie too, at one point, because you just want to figure some stuff out and kind of get crazy and dig into it.
So if you could go back and have a business sit down with the 25-year-old Jeremy, what would you tell him? What advice would you give to someone maybe way earlier on their journey from a business standpoint? I'm sure there's plenty of like life advice, but maybe like business related. What would you tell him?
It's weird. I was like, you know, I've been reflective the last couple of days, because my wife's got the kids up north and I've had some time, and I started writing this thing down about if I hadn't done all this stuff in my haste when I was younger and been as kind of ruthless as I was with what my thoughts were of where I was going to be, I would never sort of have what I have now that I'm so grateful for, you know, and I think that
what do you mean by that?
I mean, I was very hasty and ruthless with relationships and in work and with employees and with the team. I went very much on anti-toxic work environments and anti-toxic relationships. And I obviously everyone should get out of bad relationships, but I was pretty quick on that. I'm not a procrastinator. I work quick on my instincts, and I feel like I was a lot more just more hasty too, but just like, you know, ruthless and would just do what I thought, you know, was important. I don't think I was as cautious as I am now and take as much time and as careful and as appreciative. You know, but I think that if I hadn't have been like that, I wouldn't have had the ability to look back now. And I think ultimately, because it kind of answers your question, but it doesn't, but it's like being okay with just not being great, you know, or not great, but like making mistakes is like literally, like honestly, at 42 years old, you know, looking around at my buddies and people that I know that are 40, 50, 60 years old who could never have made a mistake. It's like a big deal in their life. You know, it's a really big deal. You have to be able to make mistakes. You have to be able to get over it. I'm not like Elon Musk says it too, but anybody who's done anything says it because it's the truth, is that you've got to be okay with it. You got to be okay with failing. So, you know, I've had people in my life say, oh, well, you failed a lot. And, you know, it's like, yeah, well, you know, maybe you haven't, but I don't know if you're as comfortable as I am in, you know, in the elements, you know, and you want people to be okay. It's not a judgment thing. At the end of the day, you want people to be okay, but there's a resilience factor that isn't there with people because they weren't okay with making those mistakes. So I don't know, what would I tell myself? I would definitely have said, learn what an operations team is and what those details are, and just hire a bookkeeper right away and get an operations person in to handle your mind. I would have taken a sleep apnea test a lot earlier because I found out that I was like almost dying every night. And but I mean, again, like if I hadn't have been as not ruthless with people, but ruthless with people and ruthless with myself all through my 20s, I wouldn't have had this ability to sit back and really just want my kids genuinely to be like happy individuals and watch them live, watch them grow and watch them be people and empower my team. And it's a nice feeling too when you kind of like you pay benefits to your small little team of people and they got families and you're genuinely like, you kind of have this little family. That's kind of cool too.
No, absolutely. So yeah, just to sum up what you said there, you feel like maybe there was a lot of people that didn't allow themselves to fail, and therefore they never took maybe the risks that they would have actually wanted to take in their life to pursue something maybe different, right? They stuck with maybe the safe job, the safe wife or husband, right? It was like is that what you mean? Like,
yeah.
And then there's this kind of tragic, unfulfilled void that roams around them later on in life.
It's a weird thing to watch, but you get it. You get it when you talk to people, and I'm very open, and certainly I'm not wealthy, but I'm, pretty happy with this sort of balanced existence that I've kind of learned, and it's like I've kind of gone on my own journey, and so you see resentment for sure, and you see critique, and you just kind of, I feel like as the older I get, I'll just the more and more just be able to just sort of sit back and just kind of watch it. It's alarming at times, but it's noticeable. Even with really good friends, like friends that I've had for 15 years, you're just like, oh, there's resentment there. Like they're 50 now and they're not happy. And why aren't they? And maybe it's not why for those reasons, but maybe it is, and it just seems like there's some things that are missing. And I think that's a big part of it. I also think that sort of like journey, that journey thing is just good too with my kids and like, my 15-year-old, and just telling them that, things are okay. Like, so I'll tell you a quick little funny thing with him. So he got diagnosed with ADHD, and he got put on some medication, and he'll never listen to this, but he likes the story anyway, but whatever, he doesn't mind. So he was on this medication, and his grades started going straight up. So he was like getting perfect, playing football team, getting on all the music ensembles. He was like killing it. Valedictorian, community award, all this stuff. Everyone's like super happy. And then he took me aside because he knows he can talk to me. And this, by the way, is like the best thing about being a person that's open to people and failure and openness, is that he sat with me and he said, I don't feel good about myself. I can't meet people. I feel sick. I don't eat. The medication is affecting my stomach. I'm getting good grades, but, like, what do you think? And I gave him the worst evil stepdad advice ever, which was, maybe you should fuck it up a little bit, like just fucking fuck it up, and like you've exceeded everyone's expectations over the last year and a bit. You've gone from here to here. So it's like, dude, fuck it up. And so anyway, he went off his medication 8 months ago, got his first girlfriend, got his first job. His grades went down a little bit. I wrote him this card, and I gave him a bit of dough at the end of the year, and it was a nice card. He got a job, he got a girlfriend, blah, blah, blah. And then he opens it up, and it's like, fuck geography. No one likes geography anyway. But it's like, I don't know. Hopefully this all helps, because I know that I have to stop myself, because I'm giving him a lot of life early. And I think I got that in my 20s and 30s and now. So I'm certainly aware of that. But he's on fire. He's killing it. So anyway.
That's awesome.
Little story. I don't know if you can keep that.
That's great advice.
That's perfect advice.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Jeremy, thank you so much. We're running out of time here, but Jeremy, thank you so much for
great
doing
having
this.
you
That was
on.
a great.
Thank you. Therapy.
That was
as
a great,
usual.
Yeah, it was a 40-minute chat. Just ripped right by.
Thanks
Perfect.
so much, guys. I love what you guys do, and I should I'd say that you guys really. I'm looking forward to working with you guys. We did that Biswall piece, and did really well, and now I'm just like working on some other stuff that we can work on together. I know we got a lot to talk about, so it's exciting. So
sounds good.
Yeah,
Perfect.
Cheers.
yeah, right on. I need to fill up.
There we go.
Buddy.
So,
Thanks, Chris.